Today we're going to react to Joe Rogan's English. Let's do it. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thiago here, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In case you're new here, I've created this podcast and YouTube channel to help intermediate and advanced learners of English communicate with more confidence, more accuracy, more clarity, and more awareness. If this sounds like something you want for yourself and your English, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow the show if you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That way, you're not going to miss a single new episode. Also, before we get started with the content today, don't forget to learn more about my pronunciation course. This is a course I've created to help you better understand native speakers when they speak fast, and also learn connected speech, the sounds of the English language, all that so you can speak English with more clarity, better flow, and also improve your listening skills. If you want to learn more about the course, the link is here in the description of the video on YouTube and also in the show notes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All right, so let's get started here. This is one of the latest episodes that Joe Rogan has on his podcast. He's interviewing Adam Sandler in this episode. So let's listen to Joe Rogan a little bit and analyze his English. Let's get started.
You got like a lot of great stand-up friends, all right? When you do the road, you just bring your guys with you when you guys... Like, how many of you go up on stage when you take gigs on the road?
If I do a gig, I bring usually one guy who's a beginner and then two guys who are headliners.
And a couple of nice words here, gig and headliner, right? A gig in this context is a show, a performance. I don't know if you guys know, but both Joe Rogan and Adam Sandler are stand-up comedians. So Rogan here is talking about his gig as a stand-up comedian. Whenever he goes to perform a show, that's a gig. You can also use this word when talking about musicians or bands when they have concerts. We can call that concert a gig. You are playing gigs. If you are playing at your local bar, that's a gig. You know, even for freelance work, you can refer to freelance work as a gig that you have, okay? But in this context here, it's about his stand-up show. All right. And then he says that he likes to bring with him a beginner comedian to open up for him. And after that beginner comedian, two headliners. So headliners here would be big names, you know, like comedians who are already famous within the space. They are headliners before Joe Rogan himself steps up on stage. Okay, let's continue.
And how much time does everybody do?
It depends. Gotcha. Like when I did the live special, I brought this kid, Ari Matty, who's hilarious. Yeah. Ari did 10 minutes. Well, he did 15 minutes the first night, but on the live night, he did 10 minutes. So 10 minutes to warm the crowd up. And then he brings on Ron White. Ron White murdered for 15. And then he brings on Tony. Tony murders for 15.
Wow.
Notice that he's saying the word murder here. Yeah, but it's a totally different context. This guy murders. The other guy murders. In other words, they perform extremely well. They put on awesome comedy shows. That's what he means here. So notice that he's using the word murder here as slang. Okay? So this guy murders at the comedy show. This guy performs very, very well. So from the get-go, I can already tell you that my impression on Joe Rogan's English is that it sounds very laid back. You know, he speaks English in a very chill, laid back way, you know, and he tends to use slang as we just saw. Yeah, murder in this case. Let's keep going here.
And then I go on after that.
You're fucking tough to do that to yourself. Put on big, heavy hitters because that can get you in a hole sometimes too. Where people are crushing so hard.
As long as you're happy.
Adam Sandler used a nice word here, heavy hitters. Yeah, like, oh man, I mean, you are bringing big, heavy hitters with you. Again, let's picture the visual here. Yeah, a heavy hitter would be a person like a boxer, for example, who hits hard or who hits heavy. Okay. But in this context, a big heavy hitter is like, you know, very good stand-up comedians. So Joe Rogan is bringing on his tour very good, very big stand-up comedians. So these are big heavy hitters within that space. You see, another slangy way of saying that.
having fun, it doesn't, because the audience is having a good time.
Yes.
My philosophy is I don't want bad comedians to go on in front of me. I want people to kill.
Yes.
So that when I go on,
I like the way he talks. Like, he talks kind of like that. Like my philosophy is like, yeah, man. I want people to kill. By the way, kill here is I want people to perform very well. I want people to kill. I want people to do a very good show. You see, that's another slangy way of saying to put on a good show.
Stage, everyone's having a great time.
Yes.
They don't ever feel like, oh, they made that one guy for 20 minutes. Oh my God, when was he going to get off stage?
No.
Because there's some comedians that like to do that. They like to bring in terrible acts so they look like a hero.
No, that's bad. It's bad
for the audience.
And bad for your own brain. You you're getting late.
I got to say that Adam Sandler too, at least in this interview, he sounds very chill to the way he speaks. I was like, yeah, both of them have this kind of English like that, oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, that's bad. Oh yeah, I just want people to kill him, man. Yeah, that's cool. Like that, like really relaxed, really chill, right?
Lazy doing.
You're getting lazy. It's a soft way to approach it. Yes. So like when I do shows at the club, sometimes I'm going on stage an hour and a half into the show. Yeah, and it's like here, Brian Simpson, Shane Gillis, Mark Norman. It's like killer after killer are going up.
Yeah.
Killer after killer. In other words, very good guys. Yeah. One good guy after the next, killer after killer. There's a laying way there, yeah?
And then I'm going up late. So it's like running with weights on. Like you got to come out of the gate hot,
You got to come out of the gate hot. It's a nice expression, yeah? To come out of the gate. In this case, it means when you start your show. When he starts his show, he comes out of the gate and he has to come out of the gate hot. In other words, since the 2 or 3 previous guys that went up before him killed it, like they were really good performers, he has to come out of the gate hot. He has to start his show, with a bang already, yeah? So as to keep the performance up there. That's what he's communicating here. But you see, lots of casual vocabulary, expressions here, slang, right?
Dude. First came back to stand up, I was bringing all my buddies with me, and they were killing. So it was good crowds, so everybody would stay up. Everyone's like, I know I was going to do 15. Let me do 25. And so by the time I got up there, I was following like 6 or 7 guys murdering. And it was fucking 2 hours in. And then I was supposed to do an hour and a half of that. I'd be like, shit, I got to figure it.
You see, guys, it sounds so chill the way they are talking here. Lots of informal vocabulary here. Even some fucking or fucks there. Actually, I forgot to tell you this at the beginning of the video. I'm sorry about that. But this clip here has a little bit of swearing. Okay, you're gonna hear both of them throwing some fucks, fucking. Yeah, but it's a very casual way of speaking. All right.
This out, man. I'm not kidding.
That's too much.
That's too much.
You wear the audience out.
Yeah.
You wear the audience out. When you wear people out, you make them tired. You get them tired. So if you do a show like they're talking here, if you do a stand-up comedy show for too long, like 2-3 hours, you wear the audience out. People get tired after so long sitting there watching you. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like when a show gets over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it's like, I don't want to see a 3-hour movie.
No.
Yeah, if I'm going to watch a 3-hour movie, I'm going to be at home, okay, where I can pause. Yeah, if I have to take a leak,
go eat,
go
take a leak. Another informal expression. To take a leak is to pee, to urinate. So yeah, he likes to. If he's going to watch a 3-hour movie, he better be home so that, he can take a pause. He can take a leak. In other words, he can go to the bathroom and pee there, Again, very informal vocabulary they're using here.
I'll have some popcorn. I want to, like, for 3 hours sitting in some auditorium somewhere watching a show.
That's a lot.
It's got to be a banger of a show where you're so engaged where you walk out.
a banger of a show. Yeah, it's got to be a banger of a show. Like, it's got to be a super cool show to keep me there entertained for 3 hours, because 3 hours is a long time. That's what he's saying.
You're like, wow.
How about that feeling when you know, holy shit, this arena, I'm losing him for about 5 minutes. Let me fucking get him back. How about that? When you...
It's interesting what Adam is saying here. Yep. I'm losing them for 5 minutes. When you lose the audience, they start deviating their attention. They are losing focus on you, So maybe when you start the show, they are closely paying attention. But, if it drags on for too long, then you start losing the audience, meaning that they start thinking about other stuff. That's what he's saying here.
You see people who started the show off with like, yeah, and then they're kind of like tuned out going, oh, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Why people only have a certain amount of attention span.
Yeah.
That's why I admire bands that still, like, I saw Guns N' Roses in Greece.
Yeah.
And they do 3 hours.
New shit? Or just...
No. All the...
Adam Sandler asked, new shit? Oh, you saw Guns N' Roses in Greece? Cool. 3 hour show? New shit? Like, Adam is asking, do they play like new music in these 3 hours? New shit?
The classics.
All
the classics,
No, just the classics, all the classics. But you see, Adam just used the word shit, which is a swear word, but not to mean shit, But he's talking about songs. Yeah, I mean, do Guns N' Roses do new shit nowadays in these 3 hour shows? You see, in other words, new material. Again, this is slang. It's a slang way of speaking English, guys.
Welcome to the jungle, sweet child of mine.
Can't fuck with them.
They fucking go hard for 3 hours. Those guys are 100 years old.
They fucking go hard for 3 hours. In other words, they play hard for 3 hours. But you see how informal it sounds.
They're still killing
and
it.
He's singing 3 hours. Axel's ripping it for 3 hours.
Yes. Same with the...
Axel is ripping it for 3 hours. When you rip something, you forcefully tear it apart. Like, imagine I have here a piece of paper in my hands, and then I rip it like that, right? But Adam Sandler was talking about Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses singer. Oh, Axl is ripping it for 3 hours, which is a similar meaning to killing it or murdering, right? As we just discussed, like giving a hell of a performance, like performing incredibly well. Okay?
Stones. I saw the Stones a couple years ago at CODA, the Circuit of the Americas here in town. Yeah. And it was insane. Yeah. Mick Jagger's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And he's still.
Like I love that. First he was talking about the guys in Guns N' Roses. They are like 100 years old, meaning that they're too old. Yeah. But they're still rocking. And now Mick Jagger from the Stones, 1,000 years old, meaning that they're really, really old. Yeah. I like that.
Fucking moving on. Yeah. Button go lamp, baby.
Yeah,
He's
man.
still fucking dancing and all that energy.
Yes. It's funny. They do Stones do 2 a week or something.
Yeah.
That's a really...
Did you guys hear how Adam Sandler pronounced something here? This is a common way of pronouncing the word something. And Americans do this all the time. They reduce it so much that it doesn't even sound like something. It sounds like something. That's how he says it here. Something. I'm going to play it back a little bit. Again, just for you to hear it. He goes something. He doesn't say something, but something. Listen.
Or just
all the classics. All the classics. Welcome to the jungle, sweet child of mine.
Can't fuck with them.
They fucking go hard for 3 hours. Those guys are 100 years old. They're still killing
and
he's
it. Singing 3 hours. Axel's ripping it for 3 hours.
Yes. Same with the Stones. I saw the Stones a couple years ago at CODA, the Circuit of the Americas here in town. Yeah. And it was insane. Yeah. Mick Jagger's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And he's still fucking moving on. Yeah. Button go lamp, baby.
Yeah,
He's
man.
still fucking dancing and all that energy.
Yes. It's funny. They do Stones do 2 a week or something.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? 2 a week or something. 2 a week or something.
That's a really funny shit because when we go on the road, it's like 5 or 6.
That's a really funny shit. Again, he's using the word shit just, for an informality here, for, to be casual in his communication, that's some funny shit. All right. In other words, that's really funny.
That's the way to do it, though, when you're 80.
Yes.
You need recovery.
Yes.
And also, Mick Jagger works out every single day. He has 2 trailers filled with gym equipment.
Wow. Yeah.
2 of the trailers when they travel with the Stones is just Mick Jagger's gym equipment.
What a fucking stud. A light little body. That guy looks like he weighs 120 or something.
Looks like 120.
Again, Adam, he says, what a fucking stud, calling Mick Jagger a stud, right? If you call a guy a stud, you mean that guy is very energetic, with lots of vigor and energy still, and he's still attractive to the ladies, so he's a stud, right? And Adam Sandler is saying that Mick Jagger, even though he's 80 years old nowadays, he still looks so light, like he looks like 120, he says, 120 pounds. All right. 120 pounds is around, I don't know, a little over 50 kilograms, 54 kilograms or something like that. So he's 80 years old, but he's in shape and he's very light and he still got it.
20. He's ripped still. He's ripped, 80 years old, got a 6-pack.
He's ripped. When you call a person ripped, you mean that you can see the muscles on the person's body, and he got a 6-pack, Joe Rogan said, right? Mick Jagger has a 6-pack, like you can see the muscles on his belly, like well defined. That's a 6-pack. Okay, so he's ripped.
Oh, and still has his pipes. Still can sing.
Yeah,
still has his pipes. When you say that a singer still has his or her pipes, it means that they can still sing well. Yeah, the pipes refer to their vocal cords, to their voice. Like, ooh, nice pipes you got there. That's some great pipes you got there. Like, you got a great, powerful singing voice. Nice pipes. Again, it's an informal way of referring to a person's voice when singing.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith Richards could still play. It was
coolest.
Oh, yeah. I love Keith Richards, man. So cool.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Watching them live was I couldn't even believe they were there.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I was.
You see, Joe Rogan, he sounds to me almost like a teenager talking sometimes, because he talks like that. Oh, I couldn't believe they were there. Like it was so cool, man. I mean, the way that he uses his voice and the way that he communicates almost sounds like a young teenager, and it's kind of endearing, to be honest,
It was almost like I felt like I was on drugs. I was like, am I really seeing the Rolling Stones? Are they actually there? Like I felt
like I was on drugs. Am I really saying,
Still enjoying it.
Yeah.
And when we were kids, there were no old rock stars.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
They didn't.
Elvis
he was already dead.
Right. Yeah.
He died in the 70s, right? So he was already dead.
Wow, man. Wow.
And so when we were kids, we thought of rock stars as like Van Halen, young, wild people on stage jumping around. That's a young man's game.
Yeah.
No one ever anticipated 80-year-old rock stars singing rock and roll in their 80s.
No doubt. By the way, I heard David Lee on your show.
Yeah.
David Lee is the first lead singer in Van Halen, by the way. David Lee Roth. All right.
He's been on a couple times.
Man. I mean, that band, to me, when I was in high school, I think I was in 9th grade the first time I fucking heard him. I was into...
Again, you see, fucking, the first time I fucking heard him, Van Halen, But he didn't have to use the word fucking there. He could have just said the first time I ever heard him, right? But, again, it's the informality of the conversation.
Sabbath. My brother got me into Sabbath, and then I heard...
My brother got me into Sabbath. In other words, my brother made me start listening to Sabbath and like Sabbath. Sabbath is the band, Black Sabbath, okay?
I was walking up to a fucking party.
You see, walking up to a fucking party, yeah?
It was like one of my first house keg parties, and Van Halen was blaring over somebody's Pioneer system, and it was...
Van Halen was blaring over. Like, it was playing really loud over someone's pioneering system.
Fuck, like Ain't Talking About Love or some shit. And I remember just going, what? This is the greatest shit I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. They were the kings in the 80s, dude. They were the kings. When I was in high school.
You see, I mean, Rogan's like, oh, yeah, they were the kings in the 80s, dude. Yeah, they were so cool, dude. You know, like that. He talks like that, you know?
High school?
Yes.
Everybody knew how to make that Van Halen logo on your notebook.
Yeah, the notebook. It was either VH, Queen,
AC/DC,
Zeppelin, AC/DC.
Kiss. Yeah.
Yeah, all the best bands, guys.
Yeah, they were the kings. They were the kings.
Yeah.
But, you know, we never thought they'd be still doing it.
No, that's right. And then you'd see Van Halen the last few years live and you'd fucking be still as excited.
Yeah.
It still looks smooth as shit. I saw it with David Lee Roth maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
He's such a character, man.
He's such a character, man. If you call someone a character in this case, you're saying that person is interesting, but interesting kind of in a kooky, crazy way. Like, he's such a character, like David Lee Roth, from Van Halen.
Oh, you know, he doesn't have a phone. He doesn't even keep money on him.
He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't even keep money on him. But notice that he says he doesn't even keep money on him. So he's not saying him. The correct way here would be he doesn't keep money on him. In other words, he doesn't carry money around. He doesn't carry money with him. But in connected speech, people do that all the time. They drop the H for him, for example, and it just sounds like him. He doesn't even have money on him. That's what Joe says here.
I went to dinner with him, and he has a lady that drops him off with me.
He has a lady that drops him off, but he doesn't say him off, like I just said. He says drops him. Again, he drops the H for the him word. Drops him off. All right?
And she's like his handler. And she said,
she's like his handler. A handler here is a person who manages someone else. Yeah. So they're talking about a famous rich rock star, you know. So these guys, usually they have like a handler. Yeah. A personal assistant, a manager that, you know, helps them, with their daily activities.
Says, I have her number. She has my number. She's like, call me if anything goes wrong. Right. You know, and just you're hanging out with David Lee Roth, having dinner with him. You know?
Really cool, guys. All right, really cool, guys. So my final thoughts on Joe Rogan's English are, he speaks in a very laid-back way. His English sounds very laid-back, very chill, relaxed. He uses lots of likes. I noticed that, like as a filler word. He uses likes all the time. For example, oh yeah, man, I saw Guns N' Roses for 3 hours and they were like, ripping it and killing. It's so cool, man. Like, we went there, like, and we talked, like, so he uses a lot of likes like that. Lots of swearing, both of them, Adam Sandler and Joe Rogan in this clip. We could hear lots of fucks, fucking, shit, holy shit, right? But not in a bad way, not in a negative way, but just, to sound more casual, more informal. Okay. Lots of slang as well, like, oh yeah, he murders, or he kills it, or killing it, ripping it, new shit, pipes, take a leak. All of that is slang in English, so lots of slang here, informal vocabulary, and some connected speech patterns as well. For example, Adam Sandler at some point, when he was talking about Van Halen, he says, the first time I fucking heard him. So he drops the TH for them, and he just says M. He doesn't say heard them, but he says heard him. The first time I heard him. And Joe Rogan does the same thing with the word him. He drops the H, and he just pronounces M, like drops him off. Drops him off, not drops him off, okay? Or talking to him instead of talking to him, things like that. So yeah, very chill, very laid back, very informal way of speaking English. I think Joe Rogan, sometimes he speaks English like a teenager would, he sounds like a teenager sometimes speaking English, or like a college student, in the way that he projects his voice and the way that he uses his vocabulary, something like, oh yeah, man, that was so cool. It's chill. And yeah, new shit. Yeah, like that. So I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's cool that, he has embraced this way of speaking, even though he's a grown man. But I think it makes sense because, he's a comedian as well. Yeah, just like Adam Sandler. So, I think as artists and as comedians, in this case, they're going to speak in a more laid back, chill way, so that was really cool. I hope you enjoyed this reaction video. And if you have any suggestions for future reaction videos, I would like to know. Maybe you would like me to react to another person's or another celebrity's English. So leave me your suggestions here in the comments. And I think I'm going to be doing more of these videos. Reaction videos are fun to do. So if you want me to react to another person's English, leave a suggestion here under the video. And also, if you're on Spotify, you can leave a suggestion in the comment section. Guys, I'm Thiago. Thank you so much for watching this video today with me. And don't forget to learn more about my pronunciation course. Link in the description and also in the show notes. And I'll be talking to you very soon in the upcoming video. Bye-bye.